Hello everyone, welcome to Pokédex, the channel where I build decks for the Pokemon trading card game. So the last days I've been thinking about decks, I've been thinking about the standard format, and there's not a lot that hasn't been built yet. Evolutions, the latest set, hasn't brought a lot of cards that change the standard format. Really, there's not a huge Pokemon that you can build around. Obviously there's good utility Pokemon like Rattata and Dragonite and Electrode even, which kinda makes a deck possible, but it's kinda like the only thing really. There's not much there, so we're kinda forced to start looking at the same cards over and over again, so it's getting a little bit stale. And I've been thinking about that and about the meta and what I really want from a competitive deck in the meta, and I always find myself going for the simplest and just more disruptive things. I'm just always just thinking, wow, I just wish I was like attacking with a powerful basic that requires very little commitment, and I can just play like a million disruptive cards, like a lot of hammers, a lot of disruptive supporters, a lot of Peril Cities, which is like the best stadium right now in my opinion. And this is what I came up with. It's a Zygarde deck. Zygarde is the only attacker in the deck. We play 3. It's an EX Pokemon, and there's a lot going for it, which I think make it the perfect Pokemon for this deck. If you guys look into my Darkrai list, it is attempting to do something similar to this, to Zygarde. The Darkrai list takes a lot more Pokemon, and it actually requires a lot more work, I think, because the Darkness Energy, it only has basically one good attack, and it requires 2 energy. So if you don't draw your max elixirs, you're already getting a little bit behind. Zygarde doesn't have such problem. It has 3 attacks, 1 for 1 energy, 1 for 2 energy, 1 for 3 energy. So it's perfect in that it scales very nicely. And it's a fighting type Pokemon, so we can actually use our strong energy here and increase the damage output of our attacks, which is awesome. It also has 190 HP, which is the most that an EX Pokemon has, a basic. That's not Wailord, obviously. And with a Fighting Fury Belt on the sky, it gets to 230 HP, which is more than most Megas that we are playing right now. So this becomes like a beast of a Pokemon. There's also not a lot of grass types currently being played. I know there's some people playing Vespiquen still, but if there's a lot of that in your area, it's kind of easy to counter. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of grass Pokemon being played. So this guy isn't hit for weakness on a major scale. It does get behind a little bit because of the resistance on Yveltal decks, which are played a lot. But I have to be honest, I played against 2 and I defeated both of them. So I don't think it's that bad of a matchup. I just think it comes down to what Zygarde does best, and it's exactly what I was going to tell you right now, which is 2-hit knockouts. So we get back to the same thing that we discussed on the Darkrai deck without the Giratinas that I showed you guys the last video. This is a wonderful 2-hit Pokemon, and it's even better than Darkrai because Cellstorm hits for 60 damage and you heal 30 damage from this Pokemon. Against Yveltal decks, as I said, because of the resistance, we will be using Lens Wrath more than usual, but usually against most decks, if you use Cellstorm with a single strong energy and a Fighting Fury Belt, that's 90 HP that you're taking out of your opponent's active Pokemon. If you're playing against a Volcanion deck, for example, that doesn't play Fighting Fury Belts most of the time, you're already hitting for half of the energy, so you're putting their guys in a great deal of peril, even without committing the 3rd energy down, which is awesome with this guy. And the fact that it's a basic, once again, you don't really need to commit as many cards as like when you play a Mega or an Evolution deck or something like that. So it just leaves us a lot of space for all these kinds of shenanigans. So for one, we're playing 11 different energies. Or sorry, 11 energies. It's 2 different energies. It's the strong and the basics, obviously. The basics have the advantage that they can be shuffled and they're harder to get rid of. But the strong energy, oops, we got a trade. The strong energy is obviously where we want to be at most of the time because it does hit for more damage. But yeah, because some decks do lock us out of special energy, like the Giratina decks, having a lot of basics is obviously very nice in this deck. We have 2 Shaymin for those turns where we actually need to draw a lot of cards. It's invaluable to have Shaymins around still, even in this deck. And we have Trubbish and Garbodor for disruptive Pokemon that just uses Garbotoxin, and it seems like another trade. Wonderful. Garbodor, it seems like he's giving us the finger, and that's what we want to do to our opponents. We're using Garbotoxin, locking them out of abilities. As far as items go, as I told you guys, we are playing 4 Crushing Hammer, 1 Enhanced Hammer, and 1 Team Flare Grunt. That's our hammer package. It's a lot. Once again, this is a huge swing card, especially in tempo decks like this, where we are 2-hit knocking out our opponent's Pokemon, because a lot of times we will be taking an energy out of their active, and they can't really hit us back, or they can, but with the worse attack, and then we can just heal the damage with a Cell Storm. Or if we are healing the active Pokemon, we can actually hit the bench Pokemon, and the opponent cannot come back. So that's what we are trying to do with all our hammers. Other very important cards in our deck worth mentioning. 1 Delinquent. This is a great card in this deck. It has been the MVP most games. Obviously, in a tournament setting, after you play the first Delinquent or you show the first Delinquent, the opponent is playing around it, which sometimes is even better, especially when you don't have it in your hand and the opponent does not overextend. So he keeps cards in their hand, which makes your ends a little bit better. So, for example, if the opponent has 4 cards left in their hand or 5, you don't feel as bad as playing an N as you would if they only had 1 card, for example. So that's fine, that's great, but sometimes they overextend, they go down to 2 cards, and you just Delinquent, and they get wrecked, totally wrecked. So not bad for a one-off, and I think it's wonderful in this deck, especially since a lot of times we don't really want to play any card draw supporters at all. So having something like Delinquent is awesome. Another thing that this thing does really well is a lot of people are playing Parallel City, and it allows us to switch the side Parallel City is facing. So if the opponent played Parallel City on your bench, for example, it's not really a big deal because we actually don't play a lot of Pokemon, as you guys can see. Usually we fill the bench with a backup Zygarde, a Trubbish, and a Shaymin, and that's it. But if you actually want to play it facing the other side and getting rid of some other Pokemon from your opponent's bench, like if you're playing against Rainbow Road or something, you can play Delinquent and just drop. Not that Rainbow Road would be playing the Parallel City now that I think of it, but yeah, you guys get the point. You can switch the sides that Parallel City is facing. Sometimes that's really useful. We only play 2 Fighting Fury Belt. I think that's enough. Once again, the Floatstone is key in this decks that we attack and retreat from. And usually a single Fighting Fury Belt is enough for the whole game. Putting our guy up to 230 HP is enough, usually. Another very curious card here is Pokemon Center Lady. This thing is really important, especially in those matches where we are hitting with Cellstorm over and over again, because we are healing 30, and if we are playing Pokemon Center Lady, we're healing 90 a turn. That's a lot of damage. A lot of decks can't deal with that. That's basically it. The rest of the deck is just card drawing, basically, and energy. We do have 1 Pokemon Ranger just for those decks like that play Jolteon and all that, just so that we have game against everything. And I think we cover all our bases. This deck, I've had a lot of success with this, actually. Today, I only built it today, but I've been playing with it like the whole day, and I think I only lost like 1 match or something like that. So it's obviously this is a PDCGO testing environment, so take that with a grain of salt. You kind of have to test this against actual strong opponents, like competitive players in my local game store if I can. But yeah, that's the idea for the deck. I think it's actually faring quite nicely. Tell me what you guys think about the deck. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Tell me what you think, and I guess I'll see you guys next time. Bye!